Who would do a better job? And by the way, you may not think that Brady's the answer, but with all of these available quarterbacks out there, is there a guy you would rather have than Dak? Are you convinced enough as a Cowboys fan or just as a casual NFL fan that it makes sense to give Dak Prescott $100 million plus with all of the available guys out there? And I'm intrigued by this question. How much of a market would Dak find for himself if he were an unrestricted free agent? Somebody would give him money, but how much money? How sought after would Dak Prescott be on the free agent market? And if you had a choice between, that's the question that I'm asking you right now. I'm going to bring in the crew. You have a choice between Tom Brady behind that Dallas Cowboy offensive line, which is basically a stone wall, pretty talented wide receivers. You could go out and you'd re-sign Amari Cooper, keep Michael Gallup, continue to develop the talent that you have at tight end. Jarman's a pretty solid player, seems to be coming into his own a little bit. Solid defense, a lot of good talent. Everywhere else, you're able to keep everyone. But you go get Brady instead of Dak. You don't commit that $100 million plus. Let's say you go to Brady and you give him $55 or $60 million for the next 2 years guaranteed. Who's more likely to win you a Super Bowl? Brady with the Cowboys or Dak with the Cowboys? Danny G, what do you think? My answer is Brady with the Cowboys is more likely to win a title than Dak with the Cowboys is. And by the way, the early votes coming in, who would you rather have? I was curious because this is one of these fun polls where I don't really know what the answer is going to be. Thousands of you weighing in so far. And again, you can find me at Clay Travis. Lots of opinions rolling in. And Brady right now is winning 56% to 44% among our voters. What do you think,
Wow.
Danny G?
Do you realize how much most Cowboy fans love Dak Prescott? I mean, we know a lot of Cowboy fans here in Cali because of how the team first for years trained in Thousand Oaks and now Oxnard.
Yeah.
And Dak Prescott, he is like a god to most Cowboys fans. He is the face of the franchise. He deserves a new contract.
Okay, but the question is, who's more likely to win a Super Bowl in the next 2 to 3 years?
Well, I wouldn't remove Dak.
Okay.
I wouldn't.
So your answer has to be Dak then.
Well, he had the best season of his career, so I'm kind of surprised that you would want to replace him. He threw for almost 5,000 yards and 30 TDs. Now, the team...
It's not about replacing. It's about the question of, my concern is, when you give somebody a $100 million plus contract, you have to be convinced that they are the guy who can win a Super Bowl for you.
Well, the report, though, is that McCarthy really likes Dak.
Yeah, but what's he going to say?
Yeah, but do you really want to start off a new regime with a quarterback soap opera? Because that's what would happen if you brought in Brady.
You think it's going to be a soap opera to bring in the greatest quarterback of all time? I mean, the Dallas Cowboys are a soap opera to begin with.
Because what if Brady, what we've seen the past couple of seasons, what if suddenly Dallas can't score?
I mean, that's the fear that could happen anywhere. I don't see.
But then you just did away with a young, up-and-coming star in the league for a guy who is on his last leg.
Maybe, but I think the question becomes, what is the ceiling for Dak? What I'm saying is, if you're 77 years old and you are Jerry Jones, and it seems clear to me your goal is, as a professional, before I die, I want to win another Super Bowl. You have won 3 playoff games since 1995. Brady has been to 9 Super Bowls since 2000. Okay? Who is more likely to get you back to the Super Bowl in the next 3 years? Tom Brady or Dak Prescott? That's my question. Maybe in 8 years, Dak Prescott is going to be really good, and that's the risk you would run here. But so what do you think, Dub?
This is really a tough question for me because you look at Tom Brady, and yes, he did not have a good year this year, but you also look at what surrounded him in New England, and it really wasn't a whole lot of talent, definitely not to the level that the Cowboys have on their current roster. And then you look at Dak Prescott, and he seems to be climbing and improving year after year. But to me, I would say Dak Prescott, but neither of these guys I would want in a $30 million a year capacity on my team, especially Prescott. Like I don't think I could give him $100 million tomorrow if I'm the Cowboys. I think their best option, in my opinion, would be to use that franchise tag. And I know because he's not going to like that at all.
Right.
But with
so
the way,
to Danny G's point, if you franchise tag Dak Prescott, you are going to create a ton of drama because you've only paid him $2.7 million over 4 years. But I think that's the smart financial decision because I don't know that you can say beyond a shadow of a doubt, hey, this is our guy. We're going to give him $100 million.
Yeah, and the Cowboys, they're going to have around $94 million in cap space for 2020. I think where they really overspent was on Elliott.
There's no doubt.
That's where they
him.
mismanaged their money.
But also keep in mind they're going to have to sign Amari Cooper to a record-breaking contract too because his deal is up. So
that's a mistake.
I don't necessarily worry as much about signing Amari Cooper because you got him for the next 2 or 3 years, and that's your window that you think you have a chance to win a Super Bowl. Arguably, the Cowboys really missed their window with Dak because they didn't have to pay their quarterback for the last 4 years, and now they're going to have to pay him, or it would be somebody else, a lot of money in order to be their quarterback, which is going to take away from what they can spend elsewhere. So, Dub, your answer is you don't feel comfortable spending that much on either.
Yeah, that's right. But if I had to choose right now, my choice would be to franchise Dak, give him one more year. Yes, it probably would be a distraction, but it was kind of a distraction this year, and he seemed to play really well. So I think that would be the route I would go.
So you would say no to Brady?
That's right. I just don't feel comfortable the way he looked, especially the last 8 or 9 games this year. I mean, he was legitimately a bottom half quarterback, in my opinion.
Eddie Garcia, what would you say?
I'm in step with Dub. I would franchise Dak and hope that Mike McCarthy is enough to get the team over the hump, and you can win with what you've got there. I just when it goes quickly, and I know that Tom Brady didn't have Zeke Elliott. I know he didn't have Amari Cooper and an offensive line like the Cowboys have. I still, though, I didn't. You could say it was the weapons, but I think it was also Tom Brady.
All right, so let me take a step back on this franchise Dak angle. If I am representing Dak Prescott, and he's going to have, obviously, the best agents money can buy, I'm not showing up at camp if I get franchised. And my argument is going to be this. You set the precedent with Ezekiel Elliott when he didn't even show up while he was under contract, and you tore up his existing contract and gave him a massive pay increase based on the fact that you said he had outperformed his contract. Okay, I have fulfilled all of the terms of my contract. I didn't hold out. I played for virtually nothing. I've only made in my entire career as the starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys $2.7 million. And again, I want everybody out there to hear that. Dak Prescott, for the last 4 years, played for the quarterback. I know he made money off the field and everything else, but I'm talking about on the field play for around, $750,000 a year was what Dak made on average each of the last 4 years. There are investment bankers that made a ton more money. Skip Bayless makes $6 million plus to talk about the Dallas Cowboys on television. There are offensive coordinators in college football who made twice what Dak Prescott did to play football for the Dallas Cowboys at quarterback. Even notwithstanding that, he served out his entire contract. I'm telling him, and I'm telling the Cowboys, I'm not showing up. And I'm going to pull a Le'Veon Bell. If you are going to franchise tag me, I will not show up. I want multi-year guarantee. So if you're talking about drama, I think that's probably what the Cowboys should do purely from a business perspective. But purely from a business perspective, from Dak Prescott's side, I would tell him we're not showing up until you give us a multi-year extension. So if the franchise tag is truly going to be dangled out there as a possibility for Dak, I'm saying I fulfilled the terms of my contract. I played all 4 years, wildly underpaid as the quarterback for the Cowboys. I ain't showing up. Roberto, what would you do here? Who do you think is more likely to win a Super Bowl in the next 2 to 3 years with the Cowboys? Brady or Dak?
None of those guys, but Brady's arm's falling off. Brady's done. Brady's done, so I have to go with Dak, unfortunately. I'm not a big fan of Dak. I think he's just like another Derek Carr type of player. I don't think he's going to win anything for the Cowboys. But Brady's finished. He's done. I'll go with Dak.
The phone lines are actually working now. So 877-996-6369 if you want to weigh in here. I think we have somebody on the Outkick VIP. What do we got, Danny G?
Yeah, let's start with Ben in Nashville.
Ben, what you got for me?
Hey, I can see Brady going to Dallas just because Jerry Jones is so about that instant gratification and needing to win. I mean, he's getting so old. The facilities down there are like none other, and he's been nothing more than a Jeff Fisher 8-8 squad. I can't see Dak going to New England because Belichick gets decent guys at other positions. I can see him signing one of the big-time quarterbacks and drafting somebody to learn underneath them. You can't give Dak Prescott $100+ million. You give Patrick Mahomes that money. You can't give Dak that money.
Yeah, thanks for the call. I agree. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to break the bank at the quarterback position, and I am sold on him as being the future face of the AFC as Ben Roethlisberger, Peyton Manning, obviously, and Tom Brady start to slide off into the sunset. But I'm not sold on Dak at all, which is why, when I sit around and think about this from a pure business perspective, the play is to franchise Dak. That is undoubtedly the question, and undoubtedly that's the solution to the difficulty for the Dallas Cowboys. I don't want, if I'm Mike McCarthy or certainly Jerry Jones, to tie myself down to Dak Prescott with the biggest contract in the history of the NFL. Now, partly it's not a function of who the best is. It's whose contract and when they come up. There have been a lot of guys get big deals. Remember, Matthew Stafford got a big deal. We just had Jared Goff get a big deal. And everybody in media, Aaron Rodgers obviously got a big deal, but that's a little bit different because I think most people consider him to be quite a bit above. I mean, Dak Prescott has won one playoff game in his tenure, a wild card game last year against the Seahawks. The Cowboys have won 3 playoff games in the last 25 years. Brady has been to 9 Super Bowls during that time, and I think he could be available. Does it make sense? The poll question is up. If you just had to answer this question, you're sitting around, you're debating with your buddies, who's more likely to win a Super Bowl in the next 2 to 3 years with the Dallas Cowboys? Dak Prescott or Tom Brady? And by the way, your answer may be neither, and that's certainly valid. But I'm saying which one is more likely. 877-996-6369. Let's take some of your calls. Dub, who's up first?
We got Jesse in California.
Jesse, what do you think?
How you doing, Clay? Thank you for taking my call. Honestly, I think neither of them would be able to win a Super Bowl with the Cowboys. However, hello?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay, sorry, I'm getting feedback. However, I do feel that Dak would be a better choice because Brady is falling off. The Patriots did look good in the beginning half of the season. However, that's when they weren't really playing good teams. I'm a Raven fan, and once they played the Ravens and they started having actual good teams, they started getting demolished.
Yeah, thanks for the call. There's no doubt. Down the stretch, 4-5 for the Patriots. And you could make the argument that's because partly Tom Brady has begun a decline. The argument in favor of Brady would be look at his wide receiving core and look at the talent that surrounded him, which is why I think, again, with that Dallas Cowboy offensive line, which is as good as there is in the league, with Ezekiel Elliott, who, by the way, I don't know what's up with him, but certainly regressed in a big way as soon as he got big money. And the question is, given your situation right now, Dak, here are the scenarios, right? Dak is going to want the biggest contract that's ever been signed in the history of any NFL player ever. That's what Dak is arguing he deserves. That's what Dak's representatives are arguing he deserves. We want more than what Jared Goff got. We want over $110 million guaranteed. We want $120 million, let's say. And we want $120 million guaranteed over the next 3 years. They may want $40 million a year guaranteed. That's crazy to me. I think $35 million a year is crazy. Dak on the open market, I would be surprised if anybody would pay him more than $25 million a year. It's a lot of money, but I'd be surprised if anybody would give him more than that. The Cowboys, he's going to want the biggest contract that anybody's ever signed. For Tom Brady, I think you could probably get him 2 years guaranteed, $50 or $55 million. I don't think Brady's trying to break the bank. I think he wants to win another Super Bowl. I think he wants to know that a team's committed to him for at least 2 years. And if you had that option, and the Cowboys may well have that option, which one do you like more? Who's up next, Dub?
We got Eddie in Texas.
Eddie, what you got?
Hey, good morning. I'll take Zach. Yeah, over Mr. Wonderful, who has yogurt and shark fin soup every morning. He's done. He can't do the things you have to do as a quarterback with his arm. I don't care who he has on the outside. You still got to throw a 25-yard out, and I don't think Brady is able to do that consistently over, a 16-game schedule in NFL.
Yeah.
What they really need in Dallas is my boy down in Houston. They need that kind of quarterback. And Dak is not that. But your question to it is, I'll take Dak and give a rejuvenated Mike McCarthy, who's been studying all these quarterbacks, and he's been trying to up his offense a little bit to join the rest of the NFL and some RPOs and stuff. So I like to give them two a chance. I don't know what kind of money he's going to get, but I think that's probably the best choice for Jerry Jones. Can you believe Jerry Jones and Tom Brady getting along? Oh, my God.
I'd love it. I would love to see Tom Brady down in Dallas. It would be the best thing that could happen for the NFL, to put all that drama in one place. But to be fair to Brady, there hasn't been a lot of drama over the years that has surrounded Brady, and maybe that's one thing he wouldn't like about the Cowboys. I can't get over the Cowboys. That stat doesn't get enough attention, that the Cowboys in 25 years have won 3 wild card games. I mean, there are kids right now listening to this podcast, listening to this live radio program, who are 25 years old, who have never seen the Cowboys play a divisional round playoff game. Not an not an NFC championship game, not a Super Bowl. There are 25-year-olds that have never seen the Dallas Cowboys play in the divisional round of the playoffs. I mean, think about how wild that is to advance, beyond the divisional round of the playoffs to the NFC championship game. There are 30-year-old kids who have no recollection, and 30-year-old kid is a broad definition. There are 30-year-olds out there who have no recollection of the Dallas Cowboys ever actually playing in an NFC championship game. Who's up next, Dub?
We got Mark in Ohio.
Mark, what do you think?
Hey, Clay. Enjoy the show. As a lifelong Cowboys fan, I totally agree with you. I would dump Dak Prescott. To me, he's Tony Romo light. A lot of big numbers, some great plays every now and then, but really, did any Cowboys fan ever think Romo was going to win him a Super Bowl? I don't think so, and I see Dak in the same light. I would get Brady in a heartbeat. I don't think Jerry Jones will bother him a bit. I mean, he can tune that noise out at his age with his experience, just come in and play football, and with the assets around him. I disagree with you guys. I don't think the arm's totally shot. I mean, it sounds weird, but I think if you had Tom Brady manage the games for you well, not make the critical mistakes at the critical times, I would take him for 2 or 3 years, draft a quarterback, groom that guy for your quarterback in the future, and go from there. I just don't see Dak getting us a Super Bowl ever.
Yeah, who's up next?
We got John in Dayton.
John, what do you think?
I say go with Tom Brady. I know they say his arm might be shot, but when it all comes down to it, I think he can manage the game better than what Dak could. So that's who I would take. I think Dak is just junk, really, and I don't think he should get paid $35 million. But I agree with you, maybe 20, 25.
I think that's the challenge. People, you need to consider all of the sort of the chessboard of the decision making here for the Cowboys. And now that you got Mike McCarthy in place, he's obviously going to be a big part of this decision making. But assuming that you're not going to let Amari Cooper walk, because that would be a disastrous decision, I think, having given up what did they give up? The number 5 overall pick, basically, for Amari Cooper, if I'm not mistaken. A really high draft pick, right? You've already, and you only would have had him for 2 years, right? 2 full years. That's a disastrous decision to allow him to walk. So you have to pay him. And so if you're going to pay him, your window is the next 2 to 3 years. And then all this talent that you have on the Cowboys is going to continue to turn over, and you're going to have to go back and get younger. So the window to win a Super Bowl for the Cowboys, I believe, is the next 2 to 3 years. Now, arguably, it was the past 2 to 3 years, too, when you had a starting quarterback who was costing you virtually nothing. You had a tremendous competitive advantage, and you weren't able to take advantage of that. And now you're going to have to pay him a big-time deal. Dub, let's roll.
All right, we got Gary in Pennsylvania.
Gary, what do you think?
I'd go Tom Brady.
Thanks. Gary, bringing the heat there in the breakdown.